Shalom, this is Daniel Stern from Netivia, and we're in Jerusalem. Today is Monday the 27th, and the information that I'm giving you is accurate as of 10 in the morning. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the hostage deal, the hostage arrangement and the ceasefire arrangement. There are two lead-in ideas about it. One is that Israel should do it, should have done it, and should continue, extend it. The other is that Israel should not have done it and should not extend it. I would like to talk about both of those. First of all, let's say why Israel should do the deal, should have done it. Well, obviously, all of us around the world, all of the freedom-loving world, is glad to get innocent civilians back home. No one is unhappy that they're coming home, of course, but sometimes the price is high. So in this case, the price is a cessation of the hostilities for a period of 4 days with a possible extension of additional days. And given the Hamas humanitarian aid, as well as fuel and gas and so on. And the cessation of hostilities also includes no fly-in and no drones in certain parts of the Gaza Strip. Basically, it has given the Hamas a chance to regroup and rearm. Additionally, we're releasing Palestinian terrorist prisoners, that is, women and minors that have been convicted of terrorist actions such as stabbing people or throwing Molotov cocktails or trying to cause explosions, and just due to sheer luck or due to human intervention, they failed to kill Jews, innocent Jews, in their attempts. It doesn't mean they didn't try. The difference is that that not enough blood spilled out. That the victims of their attacks did not die. As I said, the rate is 3-1. 3 Palestinian prisoners for 1 Israeli civilian, 1 child, 1 elderly grandmother, 1 woman. So that is the deal. Those who support the deal are of the opinion that no matter what, it is a state, a government's duty to get their civilians back. And that is true. It is. But once again, at what cost? A few years ago, in the Gilad Shalit prisoner exchange, Israel released 1,027 Palestinian prisoners, many of which had killed before. In fact, their death toll was over 600, in order to get 1 soldier back. Now, of course, all of Israel, myself included, rejoiced to have that soldier return. But the price, in my opinion, was too high. Those who were released, many of them returned to terror, killed hundreds more, including Yahya Sinwar, the de facto leader of Hamas in the Gaza Strip, who orchestrated the October 7th massacres. So that, for the sake of 1 Israeli captive soldier, we've already had over 2,000 casualties. Now, at the time, they hadn't yet committed their crimes, and the victims of their future crimes were nameless, which made it, of course, easier. But it was a statistical certainty that they would kill again, and in fact, they did. So, going back to those who are in favor of the deal. They are of the opinion that now is the chance to get the hostages back, whereas if we had not done a deal, those innocent civilians would be killed either in the near future or a few weeks from now, but they would not survive. Whereas stopping the hostilities temporarily does not cause the military to be unable to destroy the Hamas. And that is true. Our military is mighty, not as strong as some might think, but it is a very good army, and it's able to defeat the Hamas even with taking a short break, even after 4 days of a ceasefire, or after 10 days of a ceasefire, or after 2 weeks, or after a month. We are able to defeat the Hamas whenever the orders are given, but that's the problem. The concern among many, myself included, is that the government and the leaders of the country will not give the orders to resume fighting, or will do it in a very half-hearted way. That is, those who are against the deal are concerned about that. Those who are in favor want the hostages back now because later there might not be another chance. Of course, it is a statistical certainty that due to this cessation of violence, the Hamas will rearm and regroup, and consequently more military casualties will happen. There will be more soldiers dying as a result of this ceasefire. That is a statistical certainty. I'm not a prophet, but we can assume that that will happen. So, is the blood of soldiers less valuable than the blood of hostages? Of course not. But there is a contract between the state, the government, the kingdom, and its civilians to do the utmost to get them back. Whereas soldiers' jobs is to defend and to attack and to do what they can in order to get the civilians back. So, that is the reason that those who are in favor of the deal, the hostage negotiations, are in favor. Those who are against it are, as I said, concerned that the government will not resume the actions against the Hamas, and consequently this entire 51-day operation will end up being just that, another operation. And it will not change the dynamic in Israel, which is crucial and necessary in order for Israel to survive. Because if the Hamas survives, then the Israeli citizens will not be able to return to their homes, and the Israeli citizens up north will not be able to return to their homes. And that's a whole nother story, because then we're already talking about the Hezbollah, which will, of course, also need to be dealt with. But once again, we've seen that over the last 51 days, the government is not doing what needs to be done there, or maybe they're taking their time. I'm optimistic. But that, again, raises the concern of those who are against the hostage deal. Additionally, of course, there is the concept that no one actually keeps, but everyone talks about, which is we do not negotiate with terrorists. And the Hamas is, without a doubt, a terrorist organization and should not be negotiated with. These negotiations encourage them and motivate them to try to kidnap more innocent civilians, more babies, toddlers, children, women, elderly, uninvolved, non-combatants. And that is another reason not to negotiate with them. Those are the two sides to this conflict, to this issue, about whether this is a good deal or a bad deal. We all know it's a bad deal, but some believe that it's worth the price. Now, before I conclude, I want to just share that so far, 40 Israeli hostages have been returned over 3 days. 13, 13, and 13, with one additional who was added to yesterday's return. He was a Russian citizen who, due to pressure by Vladimir Putin, was added additionally, without even any need for Palestinian prisoners to be returned. In addition to those, also 15 foreign workers, 14 of them Thai and 1 Filipino, were returned as well, were released as well. So, that is the situation. There's an additional 11 that are supposed to be released today, and then that will conclude the first 4 days, the first 50 hostages, which ended up being 51, plus an additional 15 foreign workers. That is the sum of the deal, and I want to add one point of optimistic speculation. I hope that those in charge have taken full advantage of this break in order to gather intelligence based on the movements of the Hamas in order to retrieve the hostages. Many of them were still in the northern part of the Gaza Strip, in order to retrieve intelligence that will assist them in saving hostages. I'm optimistic, but, I hope that that's the case, but who knows. One final note, again, this is all as of Monday, November 27th at 10 in the morning. There was talk among the Palestinians, among the Hamas, that if the cessation of violence is extended, then they will, once they run out of women and children to return, not because there aren't any, but because supposedly they don't have them all with them themselves, but rather they're held by other organizations and criminal elements, which is, of course, poppycock. But in any case, supposedly they will start handing over, returning elderly men as well as bodies of dead hostages. So that leads us to believe that there, of course, are a considerable amount of dead hostages as well, which is not a surprise, but it's just validated information. And I've already twice said one final note, but I actually have another final note, and that is, please pray for the hostages, pray for the families of the hostages, and pray for the leadership to do what's right. God bless you all. From Jerusalem, Daniel Stern.